for the political prisoners stuck up in themselves. We got Brandon in the White House and his brain ain't got no cells. Tucker just blew up the J6 propaganda that they sent. This administration, no improvements, it ain't going well. Latino free minds, we got a story to tell. Stop the manipulation, everybody, let's give them hell. Cause they ain't got no logic, their main tactic is to yell. And liberty ain't partisan, so let's ring that bell. Now, thank you, Donnie T. And no, not Trump, my boy Don on the beat. Time to fight for what's right, so get up on your feet. This is Star Spangled Banger, you ain't ready for this heat. What we want? Justice, you need. Justice, you need. Justice, you need. Justice, you want. Justice, you need. Justice, you need. Justice, you need. Justice for all. All right, everybody, welcome back to Latino Free Minds, episode number 11. I'm Daniel. This is my co-host, Danny. Thank you all for tuning in, for subscribing, for sharing our posts, everything that we post, liking it and all that. We appreciate it. And like we said last time, we're going to be here for a while, so get used to us. And, we got important things to do, important things to talk about, and we feel like a lot of important things people might have not heard of, but, giving them the opportunity to hear something from a different perspective. How you doing, Danny?
Doing good. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of patterns to be noticed out there. So, that's what we'll be talking about. These identifying the patterns and seeing the manipulation. Mm-hmm. The media politicians, they do a really good job about that. But if you get to be a little bit older, you can kind of go back and remember things that happened way back and kind of look at everything in retrospect and see those patterns out there. So it's all about learning and sharing, mm-hmm. and just avoid us being manipulated and our family members, loved ones. So that's the whole purpose of us talking here.
Yeah, it's like they use the same playbook right over and over, and it's the same cycle that gets repeated. But there might be subtle changes here and there, but big picture, it's the same. It's the same. What do you call it? What would you call it? Algorithm or whatever they would want to call it. Same playbook.
Well, you said it, playbook. It's mm-hmm. So if you go back in history, the U.S. Has gone in other countries with operations, and they kind of implement the same, game plan that they implement in other countries to get certain things done. Mm-hmm. And now they're doing it here. The J6 is a good example of that. Just having agitators, controlled groups going out there and trying to achieve a certain agenda. And mm-hmm. Same thing with elections. We see the same patterns in Brazil that have been happening here in other countries. Mm-hmm. So they've refined, they've perfected those game plans and the approaches that they have. But I think we were talking about it in the other episode too, is that with today's technology, it kind of works against them because we can decipher everything, that's going on. Not necessarily not on real time, but something that took like years to figure out in the past when it was just like radio and television, maybe like 3 channels that mm-hmm. we used to watch back in the day, and newspapers too. Now, social media has completely changed everything. So, they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes, but there's people out there, mm-hmm. chatting or, posting stuff online right away and kind of debunking, the narrative that they're trying to, present to us. Yeah, we're back on.
Yeah, your video turned off though. Again.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, but it's still recording the audio, so we can keep rolling. But yeah, that's the I actually just posted that clip today when you were saying about how with time the truth comes out anyways, and you had even mentioned, like you said right now, about technology advancing. So yeah, people will share things quicker. A storyline could get debunked right away instead of people going maybe weeks or months, and not even nowadays, right? You don't see the retraction, you don't see the correction. So can you imagine how it was back in the days when you know they retracted something from an article 3 weeks later and no one ever caught it? You know what I mean?
Well, that and they could literally say something like a year ago or 2 years ago, and they could say that it never happened. They're like, I never said that. There wasn't any, lifetime recording or audio or anything like that. So
Yeah.
people would have to go and what would they research? What would they dig? They would try to find a newspaper or something like that. And,
Hmm.
that's too much work for an individual to do. But now
Yeah.
we've got the internet. And even if they try to delete, stuff that's on the internet or anything like that, someone more than likely has a video of it
Or a
and they post
screenshot.
it and they debunk that. It's kind of like the
Yeah.
J6 right now. Did you
Yeah.
hear that what they were presenting to the J6 non-select committee? It
Hmm.
was altered video. It was
Wow.
altered video. It was altered audio,
Hmm.
and we talked about it before. News networks have gotten sued for editing video, altering audio
Hmm.
to sway people in a certain direction. And here we go again. It
Yeah.
just happened again.
Yeah, and I saw that they were showing edited clips because I think what Tucker Carlson was doing was whatever clip they shared, he basically shared like the full version of it.
Hmm.
So you could see everything that happened, not just again, because we've talked about it before. What they do to manipulate is take things out of context, show you just that little bit that kind of you see. I said this was what happened, and they show their little visual evidence, right, without showing you the full context. So like one specifically that I can remember just off the top of my head, they would use a video of Senator Hawley when he was running out of the out of the
Hmm.
Senate, and they used that to kind of make him look like a little punk. He was running away as soon as everything went down. But Tucker showed the full video, and it's like they're all running out. I think he was either
Everybody
like
was running
like
out.
the last one or something. So
Hmm.
like you said, it was deceptive editing that just fits their narrative, and everything the media put out in regards to J6 was just all edited out of context, and they had an agenda, right? And to them, what happened on J6 was the craziest thing that's ever happened. Many of them have said it's crazier than Pearl Harbor, it's crazier than 9/11. Like it's just comparisons that don't add up. But to give it that, how do you call it, that seriousness or that emotional, like, oh, this is terrible, I'm gonna compare it to some things that were actually terrible, compared to that.
Yeah, that's like a slap in the face because
That's a
I remember
gaslight.
when 9/11 happened. Huh?
I said that's a gaslight.
It is a gaslight, actually, because I remember when 9/11 happened, and that was, I can't even compare it. I remember sitting in my car right before I walked into work,
Hmm.
and I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that the world was going to completely change after that, and it was shocking. It was very traumatic, and that's something that happened on the East Coast. Someone on the West Coast listening to it, yeah, that was pretty traumatic. And when they said that it was worse than 9/11, man, these people are something else.
It's like, what's that saying in Spanish? Cuando le echan mucha crema a los tacos, where you get to the point where it's like, all right, you there, you lost me.
Yeah, se pasaron de crema.
Yeah, se pasan. And it's funny
Yeah,
because, like, yeah, I remember 9/11. So, my normal routine, because I was a sophomore in high school when that happened. So my normal routine was I would wake up, I would turn on the TV, and I would put on the news to see the weather of the day. And then I would know, all right, am I going to wear shorts or pants? That's kind of how my mind was wired.
yeah.
And then, I turned it on that day, and then, they're just talking about, I think the first plane had hit by the time I turned it on. And, they were talking about, oh, plane crashes into, the World Trade Center in New York and all that. And then, I'm getting ready. And then as I'm getting ready, then they're like, oh, another one. And then to kind of see that live, well, I didn't see the plane crash live, but how they were reacting to it, I was like, oh wow, like this is something serious, right? So as we went to school, they kind of started talking about, like, you started hearing, oh, it was a terrorist attack, the United States under attack. So yeah, like I remember that day, and kind of watching the buildings fall, like when we got home from school and watched the actual footage, like that day was crazy. Like, as far as, like, you know what you're physically, like, what you're seeing, what you're hearing about it, just the images. You would see people jumping out of the building. People were talking about the sounds of when those bodies made impact in the ground. It's like that was such a, what do you call it, such a devastating, sad day in history, that when you want to compare that and all those people that lost their lives to January 6th, where people are just walking into the Capitol, and, like you said,
Well,
there
you
were
saw the
agitators,
videos.
but
It was like they were being guided through the Capitol.
yeah, that
Some of
that
them.
shaman guy, he had his own escort, like, basically,
Yeah, he
as
had
the
like
guy,
two of
the cop had
them.
opened the door for him and all that, and it's like, all right, he's obviously not a threat, or anybody there with, those officers, they would have authority to assess that this person is a threat. So I'm assuming they got the training, so if someone's a threat, they, subdue that threat. They weren't doing that. They were walking with the guy through the Capitol.
Yeah.
And the other people that were walking through the Capitol, same thing. They didn't look threatening. Where some people trying to take stuff from there, it's like, yeah, which is like, okay, compare that to 9/11. Like, if you lose, I don't know, what was it, like,
But these
podium?
people, in my book, they don't even have credibility
No.
in with pulling this stunt. It's we were saying this on the last episode. Like if you haven't started to wake up, you
Hmm.
you're probably in denial. That's kind of like the way that I'm starting to take it now because with everything that's coming out, um, you should be waking up.
Yeah.
You should be seeing the patterns now. Talking about patterns is you know assess everything, pay attention to everything that's going on,
Hmm.
and you can see the patterns. And you should be waking up by looking at those patterns and identifying those patterns.
Hmm.
And these people don't have any credibility. And if they had an ounce of credibility with those comments that they made that we're talking about right now, worse than 9/11,
Hmm.
all of that credibility is like down, 0% credibility at this point.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, the media does, the celebrities, those talk shows and all that. That's what they do. They sell that manipulation. They sell that lie, so that, unfortunately, you know, even if people are kind of waking up, they get that, what is it called? Is it like the confirmation bias or something, where they see something that,
Mhm.
oh, okay, yeah, I knew it. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's a lot of people like that. So if they would be more, just basically just be more open minded, right? Don't automatically jump to, for example, Tucker Carlson's a white supremacist. Like, just, it has nothing to do with reporting of the facts or showing you a
yeah,
full video instead of a short, out of context edited one. So I think if people were more open minded about that instead of just sticking, what do you call it, staying on their side, cementing their feet on their side, then you'd probably have way more people waking up. But you know, like we said in episode 1, there's a lot of people that don't even think manipulation is happening. They don't even know it, and that's where, like we said at the start of this one, that's where we come in, and we're trying to speak about things that people might have not have heard of, or maybe not heard of it in this perspective. We're because we're learning too, right? We're seeing all these things as they happen, like the whole J6 video. There's two sides, there's two reportings on it. We see both, and we make up our mind. Okay, this one makes the most sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a saying. There's two sides to a story, and then there's the truth.
Yeah, somewhere in the
So,
middle of the truth.
and that's kind of where we have to, look at both sides. Well, look at all sides, and then make an educated, assumption of what the truth could be. You know, but
Yeah,
the one thing that we should focus on is not getting played.
yeah,
So you know,
and
I think that's actually a good conversation because there could be a lot of people out there that are kind of like in that gray area where they know that something's going on, but they don't necessarily want to say anything because they don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or a crazy person or something like that. But
yeah,
deep down, they've thought about it. They've seen the patterns, or
it
they've
doesn't add up to them.
assessed all sides. Huh?
It doesn't add up to them.
Exactly. But
Hmm.
then they're gun shy. They don't want to say anything because they don't want to seem like they're that crazy person. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I
And I
get it.
think that that might be happening to a lot of people right now.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think, I
And
think, I think everybody, or a lot of people that are probably kind of on the same page as we are, probably felt like that too before they started. Got to the point where it was like, you know what? Nah, you know, yeah, I'm not, I'm not that crazy. This doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. I need to speak up about it, or I need to like question it more, right? And start
mhm,
doing your own research and not just falling for it. So I think, those are the early stages. And then, once you kind
yeah,
of, once you're kind of, because it gets to a point where you're convinced, all right, yeah, this is, I'm being lied to, I'm being manipulated, I'm being used, and basically enough is enough.
yeah. And you know what the crazy thing is that they make movies and TV shows about this. So um, my son's been watching Narcos, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it's all over. American government's involved. They kind of assist. They don't assist. They make a move to take down a bad guy and let another bad guy, kind of run wild, possibly,
Hmm.
working for them. And then it's that guy's turn to go down, and then another one comes up, and all kinds of different
Hmm.
American government interests with whatever may be going on with that bad guy.
Yeah.
And so they make shows about it. Then there's movies about it. There's um, movies where they have a, what do they call that? Where they have a fall guy. They call it. There's a term for it. It's
Uh, um. Oh,
you know what I'm talking about. It's
yeah. Yeah. Uh, it's not coming to me right now. But
no, I know, but there's a good Mark Wahlberg one
uh
where he's the sniper, and
it's like the twist. It's like the
it's in the tip of my tongue. I can't remember what they. There's a term for it,
yeah.
but
With the one on sniper, we get set up, and then they.
they use them almost like a consultant. Hey, how we're, if you were to, take a shot at this
Yeah.
speaker, this government official, where would you take it? And they set it all up. Then they actually fire shoot him,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's perfect. He was in that room from that window taking the shot,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and now he's on the run.
Yeah.
So I mean,
A fog.
those
Yeah,
are
fog
those are
guy.
real, yeah. And they have their guy right there.
Mm.
So they put it right in our face. They have TV shows about it. They have movies about it, and those things really do happen.
Yeah.
There's other movies that go into a lot more detail on what they do in other countries. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about 9/11, and um, how old was I? I was in my early 20s, but I remember everything that was going on after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
North Korea came into the picture out of nowhere. They started threatening the U.S. and started having, firing missiles. And then they were getting uranium,
Mm.
for a nuclear weapon or whatever, the story was at that time.
Yeah.
And fast forward, that was 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And every time there's a conflict, North Korea is testing missiles, firing missiles, is a threat to South Korea, and they just distract our attention. They're doing something down here, and they're like, "No, look up here," and it's the same patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same patterns over and over and over. We're watching Rocky,
Yeah.
the Creed 2 or whatever the heck it is,
Okay.
and look at how they recycle things. In the early 80s, mid 80s, there was the Cold War, the end of the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
and Rocky and Drago were going back and forth. Russia bad, USA good.
Yeah.
Now look at where we're at right now with Creed 2. Look at the patterns. Now there's a movie again about US and Creed, fighting Drago's son.
Mm-hmm.
So the patterns are there. We just have to open our eyes and look at them and identify them, and they're there.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And it's
Yeah.
like an important thing that you had said in the past, and is that a lot of people, and kind of comes it goes in a little bit to kind of some of the other things we wanted to talk about how people come to this country, right? And if you were to ask them, is this government corrupt? They'd probably tell you no, right? Because they're
They won't
probably
even
trying to
let you finish the sentence,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they'll say, no, 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 it's not.
because they're trying to get away from a corrupt government and come here because obviously, people hear about the American dream, they see the success of people that live here, so they in their mind it's like, okay, there's no way that government is corrupt because people can actually do good for themselves in a sense. But it's like if the government has these playbooks like we're kind of talking about, right? And we have the same things get repeated, right? Like you were saying about with North Korea. It's like something's happening and it's like, hey, North Korea, it's like you're up, right? Your turn to come into the batter box and, you know, swing the bat a couple times and then we'll see what happens. And then it's Russia,
Mhm.
then it's China, and then it's what I mean? Like it's just like you're saying, then it's some sort of terrorist group. And it's just the same things over and over.
It's recycled. You were talking about what the Mexican president was saying in response to Lindsey Graham's comments, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same playbook in the sense that um, the Mexican president is responding to what Lindsey Graham is saying, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
basically saying that he's corrupt or the Republicans are corrupt. And maybe I didn't hear what the Mexican president said, but I think he's right and he's wrong at the same time, in the sense that yes, Lindsey Graham is a rhino, uh, probably is corrupt, and it has something to do with the corruption, even obviously here
Mm-hmm.
or in other countries. For example, in Mexico. because he reminds me of another rhino, um, John McCain.
Mm,
And there's these famous pictures when everything was going on with Iraq, Afghanistan, and all of that stuff, Al Qaeda.
hmm.
There was pictures out there in the internet with him, like taking pictures, like he's a celebrity and they're celebrities taking pictures with each other, in and these were like terrorists, known terrorists that he was taking pictures with. So
Mm.
it goes back to that same playbook. If they're arming, the enemies, with our tax dollars, it's the same playbook. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what the Mexican president said exactly, but if he's calling them corrupt, there's something to that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And then you know, I'm not saying that he's 100% right with everything that he said, but I'm just talking about that instance is that he's calling them corrupt, and I believe that there's some truth to that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Lindsey Graham is just he's an opportunist, right? When Trump was in office, he was like the what do you call it? He was like the bad guy, right? Like he was like, yeah, he's like he was like 100% MAGA, if you will, or just about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as J6 happened, he tucked his tail, so to speak. Um, and then because that's what was convenient at the time, right?
Well, look at who was president too. So Trump was president, and Lindsey Graham knew that if he had to stay in the good graces of the Republican Party, then he had to follow the lead
Hmm.
of Trump. Trump's gone now,
Yeah.
so now he could go back to the way that he was when Obama was there, and he was the biggest rhino when Obama was there. And then when Trump
Hmm.
was there, he was a hardcore Republican. So
Yeah.
he's back to his old tricks, like you said. He's an opportunist.
Yeah. Opportunist. And now he probably thinks, Trump more than likely will get the nomination. So he's got to kind of, it's like he's playing that role now. It's like, oh, I got to switch it back to this because this is what, this is going to provide me the most opportunity. And yeah, and like you said, it's to some extent, he's right, right? If Mexico needs to handle their business, obviously the fact that 4 American citizens were kidnapped, 2 were killed, I I get right that you would want to kind of not investigate, but like maybe say something to toughen people up or hey, take care of your stuff over there. But to kind of say that if you don't do it, we're gonna do it. That's it's threatening, right? Would Americans, in a sense, the ones that are pro this Ukrainian war, would they be okay with Putin telling Ukraine, "Hey, if you don't handle your stuff, I'm gonna take care of it." You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of like the
Yeah.
same kind of compare. It's the same kind of thing, and like I agree with him. It's like we'll Mexico will take care of their stuff. Hopefully they do, but I think the part that I personally didn't like was when he said that. So the translation's right here. I don't have the Spanish one, but it says, and it's quoted. It says, "So if they continue to offend Mexico, we will continue to denounce them and ask our countrymen not to vote for them. And I am sure that not only Mexicans or other Latin American countries in the United States, but even American themselves will be in favor of us." So what I was telling you earlier, the reason that bothered me or bothers me is because we already have as Latinos that are conservative, trying to kind of explain people why we do what we do, why we have these conversations. It's like for us, it's hard enough to get Latinos to, for example, not repeatedly vote Democrat, right? Um, and it sucks that someone in his position, I'm pretty sure he's a respected Latin figure or Latino figure. So for him to kind of put out there that, that saying that, oh, I'm gonna tell him not to vote Republican. it's just kind of, again, we were saying earlier, that confirmation bias, right? Where it's like, yeah, he said that that's true. We're not going to do it. So that's the part I have the problem with, and it's just it makes it harder for kind of what we're trying to do when someone with such a powerful position is kind of saying those kind of things. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that because look, people are fleeing Mexico. People are fleeing South America, right? In those countries are, they're run like a socialist country, right? And how does he have the goal to come out and
Mm-hmm.
say that he's going to tell those people that are fleeing his country to vote the same way that they're voting in his country when they're fleeing it? It's like, so you're leaving that country so that you can change it to the country that you're leaving. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that those people have the sense not to do that. It's like you're telling me to do this, I'm going to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they have the sense to do that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I'm hoping that they understand that it's an illusion, and the illusion is to make us think that they are the majority.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's telling us is trying to make us believe that that is the majority, just because he is a person with a lot of influence. Geez, man, he's the president
Yeah. Yeah.
of Mexico, so he's got some sort of influence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just because he says it doesn't mean that that's what the majority is, or that that's what is correct. So I'm hoping that people have the sense to understand that and see that.
Yeah. And then
So
this is where that Spanish media comes in, though, right? Because then they get their clip of this guy saying this, and then even if that person kind of does have that sense of like, why would I do that? That doesn't make sense.
mhm,
But if they see, for example, Univision, Telemundo, whoever, constantly repeating like, yeah, look, listen to this guy, listen to what he said, then you get like that thing that's confirming maybe what they are. Okay, then they must be right. So that's why you know it's kind of, this is another topic, but that's why like alternative sources are good for information, especially in Spanish. For me personally, I only know one Spanish speaking like alternative news source. It's called Americano Media, and they do all their stuff in Spanish, so they kind of give you a different perspective than
mhm,
those. But if kind of to the point you were saying, is you would hope that they're what do you call it, thoughtful enough to be like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that because I left there because it's better here. I don't want to turn here into what's over there. So, but that whole media thing, that whole media angle, you get these stupid celebrities, you know, just kind of throwing all that manipulation out there, and it's a tough battle. It's a tough.
yeah. But what do you think about
I understand.
it being a whole illusion?
Huh?
What do you think about it? That concept that it's just like an illusion that they're trying to feed us. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
get that feeling that people understand that, or?
I feel like people do understand that, and I feel like they would get it, but then there's also that the amount in that group that, let's say, would get it, that kind of throws away their own judgment because someone on the news, someone else in quote unquote influential, says the opposite of what maybe in their mind is kind of bringing, where they have reservations, but then they hear someone that they might respect or whatever say the opposite, then they go, okay, well, shit, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you kind of get all
yeah,
that, but I get what you're saying.
yeah. No, I mean the reason I'm asking you is that you hear about ratings just being at a record low.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because of COVID or not, but the theaters, a lot of people aren't going to the theaters anymore. A lot of the ratings on the Netflix movies and stuff like that are really low.
Hmm.
Um, you know, their stocks are hurting. You see the ratings on TV shows and stuff like that, and they're really low.
Hmm.
So it's almost like people are just sick and tired of it already.
Yeah,
And
I think that's if my personal opinion. I think it has to do a lot of with that kind of go woke, go broke thing. Um,
mhm,
I think
mhm.
people are just like you're saying. I think that's what you're getting to right now is people are just tired of what what they put on Netflix, right? It's the same thing. It's like that. I don't know if you watched that movie with Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill. I forget what it's called. Um, it's supposed to be a
I started watching it and I fell asleep because it
okay,
sucked.
and
But
I understand that. So it's like, all right, Jonah Hill, Eddie Murphy, fucking 10 years ago, if they would have made this movie, it probably would have been one of the funniest movies ever. But right now, it's like they got their agenda that they couldn't just let that go and just make it a comedy. You know what I mean? Like
mhm,
it was
mhm.
like being lectured and trying to be funny at the same time, but it's not. And it was like everything was so agenda, right, about white people or I guess they're Jews. They're Jews. The black family was Muslim or Islam. So it's like just the whole nothing but division, right? Like just why we don't like them, and then the white family or the Jewish family is trying to be like cool and like, oh yeah, we like, yeah, we love black people. You know what I mean? Like it was so
Oh yeah, yeah.
it was it was like, man, like it's just because and people are tired of that.
It doesn't seem natural. Like that's not the way that it would operate like in real life. You
Right.
know,
Right.
or not that every comedy is like in real life, but just like fluid. It
Hmm.
wasn't like fluid, free flowing, real comedy. I don't think there is much real comedy right now, but
No.
um, yeah, it was kind of forced. That's what it.
Yeah. There
That's
you
the
go.
word.
That's
Everything
a
was
good way to
like
put it.
really forced.
Hmm.
So I just feel that people are sick and tired of it, and they see it, but I don't know, man.
I
It's crazy because there's so many things that they're trying to feed us. Um, and there's so many distractions. It's like you can't really focus on one thing because you're being pulled away on another. And I think it's part of the manipulation. It's just like
oh
you're
yeah.
being pulled left, right, up, and down, and all over the place, and you can't really focus on one thing and try to figure it out.
Yeah. It's
So
forced, and like you said, that whole manipulation towards the agenda is just they can't let it go. It has to be there. It has to be in everything they do, in every commercial, in every TV show, in every movie, series, whatever. It has to be in there. They can't just like not add none of that other stuff people don't care for or don't want to be bombarded with it every single time I turn on the TV. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like turn it on and then feel like shit. Well, I'm gonna turn this off, you know,
mhm.
because
Yeah,
in a like we had said before, right? When we were talking about entertainment, it's like people want to watch. Yeah. Do I want to watch a movie that's entertaining? That's you know whether it's action, comedy, whatever it is, and do I want to watch it and enjoy it? And I know that world that movie's in isn't real. It's just entertainment. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I'll watch that. But now you get like these, yeah, I guess you could call it real world issues and things, and then you try to put them in this make believe story that isn't even real, and try to you do it in a way where you're trying to make me feel like or whoever, right? If I don't agree with that, I'm the bad person. So it's like I don't watch movies to get lectured basically or to get
yeah,
scolded on things or for not agreeing or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, it. You watch a movie or a show to be entertained. Period. You
Yeah.
know, um, and it's funny because I've started watching like movies made in Spain and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The stories that they come up with are actually really good stories. Like the plot,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they're good, and they have nothing to do with race or political parties or positions or
Mhm.
anything like that. They're just good storylines, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what movies should be. And like you said, with all those ratings going down and people not going to the theaters, and it's people have had enough. And you would hope, okay, the companies go, okay, we get it. You guys don't like this, and they kind of back off of that. But it's also what you said. It's like they can't let it go. So,
You can't let it go, man.
so it's like
It's like
we're stuck with
Hershey's.
this
What
crap.
was that whole thing that Hershey's candy started doing? And then that other,
So okay,
it's like we can't even eat chocolate. We can't even eat chocolate now without having like a political agenda, man.
right? And now I got to buy chocolate from somebody else because
Yeah.
I thought the way they put it was funny, and it's like, man, like we don't, we shouldn't have to do all that, right? But I don't know if you watched the ad or not for that. That ad was funny. The one the Daily Wire did for the chocolate. That was a funny ad that made me laugh. But yeah, because it's a chocolate bar. Then you turn it into pronouns, basically her, she. But instead of using a woman on International Women's Month or Day or whatever it was, you use a man, a biological man. Sorry if that offends people, but they use a man on Women's Month to promote a chocolate that basically sounds like women pronouns. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you said it perfectly. We don't even have to go there. Like that's unnecessary, and they just hopefully they let it go. But it kind of feels like, damn it, we're gonna be stuck with this for a while.
Well, check this out. As you were saying that, because we're talking about chocolate, right? It's like imagine the little kids. So you and I are we're exhausted with all this political this PC stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just to have a dessert. And me growing up, I didn't even that wasn't even a thought, man. It's like if I saw the ice cream truck, I heard the ice cream truck, and I was gonna go buy a chocolate and ice cream or candy, whatever the heck it was. That wasn't even a thought, and they weren't even trying to sell me that. They were just trying to
Right.
sell me a good, delicious ice cream or candy, whatever it
Yeah.
was, and that's all we have to worry about. It's like,
Right.
you know what? I like this WWF ice cream
Oh, those
of
were the best.
the Hulk or the Ultimate Warrior or whatever it was, and it's delicious, right? Now, instead of just thinking about whether it's good or it's not good, we got to worry about all this PC stuff. Imagine the kids, man.
I
It
know.
must be exhausting.
It's crazy, right? It's funny because if you bought one of those today and you got a Macho Man one, you'll probably say he, him at the bottom.
I know, huh? What does he identify as? Holy moly, man!
Like his name's Macho Man. I'm pretty sure I get it.
Macho man, dude, that wouldn't fly these days.
Oh man.
That would not fly.
But yeah, right. It's like you go to the store, whatever it is that you liked, ice cream, candy, whatever. You just buy it because you like it. Because damn it, this is good. I like this one. This is the one I'm buying. That's never crossed my mind. If I ever bought a Hershey bar, I never thought of pronouns. I never thought her, she. I mean, I never really. I don't know. Maybe other people have, but I never, in my mind, it never crossed. Even though it's like, yeah, okay, it's the words her, she. I never put it that way as a pronoun type of thing. But we'll see
I
because
mean, this is the day and age that we live in. This is the day and age that we live in. And to me, it's they're just creating chaos so that we can't focus on all the bad things that they're trying to accomplish. That's just my thought, but um,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, divide and conquer, man. Divide and conquer. That's the agenda.
That's what it is, and unfortunately, they succeed at it, right? Because it all starts like you're saying with the kids, right? If the kids are constantly exposed to this stuff, like we had talked in the past, as soon as they get older, to them it's normal. So when you're older, an older adult, and you're trying to deal with the teen kid that's grown up through all this agenda, all this crap that they're throwing out there, what's it going to do? It's going to divide your home. So it's just that's why they won't let it go, because they're playing a long game, right? And we've said
Yeah,
many times too, it's like we gotta be prepared to have a long fight, not expect everything. You know, we can't expect like an instant victory. This is a long battle, and I've said it before. You gotta fight against it, and you gotta be willing to grind that whole fight instead of, you know what I mean. There's gonna be tough times in that fight, in this battle, to try to hopefully, you know, from my point of view, it's like I'm fighting for the future generation, right? For my kids. I don't want them, if it's this bad now, I can only imagine how bad it'll be in 10, if shit, 5, 10, 15 years from now. You know what I mean? If we don't do anything,
yeah.
we don't stand up against it. Um,
Well, I'm going to give you an example. I had a conversation with someone about this today. Okay,
okay.
we're talking about a young man, early 20s, a friend's nephew, a
Hmm.
friend of mine's nephew. So he's telling me, hey, he needs to go out in the real world, have a job and experience life, right? So, in other words, parents, the mom and the dad were sheltering them, really not pushing them out to expose them to real world issues, conflicts, and things of that nature. So he's really sheltered.
Hmm.
So, again, a young man in his early 20s, where the parents are finally coming to a realization that they want to push him out and go, you need to experience life. You need to experience real world life stuff, right?
Hmm.
And that's what happens. That's what they're trying to do. That's the system accomplishing their goal, is having young men, and it could be a young woman too, but in this case I'm talking about a young man,
Hmm.
is he's not ready to deal with real life. You push them out there and they don't know how to handle a situation.
Hmm.
They come up against conflict, they'll freeze up, they'll get anxiety, they won't know what to do.
Hmm.
And I think that's exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And we could flip that. Let's say that it's a young woman, that's been sheltered, that hasn't been pushed out, to experience real world, shit.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's she won't be able to handle, a difficult situation on her own. Not to say that she has to be on her own, but you want her to be independent. You
Yeah.
want this young man to be independent, but they're not. In their early 20s, and they're not ready for that. For the simplest things in life, just to go out there
Hmm.
and maintain a job
Yeah.
and just function like a normal human being, like a healthy young man or woman.
Hmm.
That's pretty sad, man.
Yeah.
And I think we have more of those young men and women in that situation, and parents. Remember what we talked about is like, if you should be waking up. One eye should be opening and realizing that this is happening. But the problem is that when that eye is opening and they're starting to wake up, it's a little too late. It's
Yeah.
right when
Yeah.
your kids are in their early 20s. Shit, it's a that should be coming up when it's like, when they're turning 8 or something, 10 or
Yeah.
something like that. It's like, hey, you need to wise up. You need to pay attention, to what your surroundings are when you go to school, when you go play with your friends, or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I
that's
think
what's going to happen to us, and that's going to be the majority of the people growing up.
no, and that's I think I agree with that 100%. And I think the problem too is okay, so you got those parents that shelter their kids for such a long time that well, yeah, once they go out to the real world, they don't know how to handle anything because they've had someone else handle it for them their whole life, right?
They've been protecting them. They've been
Yeah,
protecting them,
protecting them.
protecting them from having their feelings hurt.
Yeah, and so to go along with that, we also have a society today where responsibility isn't even important anymore, right? So if that young man goes out into the world, doesn't know how to handle a situation, they're going to look for the easy out. You go work a job that's kind of hard, you might not like it. What do? You quit. Go to the next one. You have people that they just move on, right? You got responsibilities, right? Your girl gets pregnant, you're not ready to be a dad, or you're not financially prepared to be that. What do? You go get an abortion. Like there's so many things in today's society where you don't even got to be responsible anymore. You just kind of look for the easy out, and in a sense, it's there for you. You know, you
Yeah,
can you can go work a job, and if you don't like how they held you accountable or held you responsible or whatnot, you know, you can fake an injury and sue the company and then
easy way out.
out.
Hmm.
You know, that's we have kids that are raised, sheltered, protected, and then they come out. They expect everything their way, and if it's not their way, then there's always an easy answer. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. Well, check this out. There's a Spanish radio station, and this guy comes out with all kinds of metaphors and good life experiences and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm not translating in English, but he told a story about a guy that ended up in prison. Okay, so this guy ends up in prison, right? And it's like a life sentence or something like that. And his mom is going to visit him and stuff like that. And they start asking him,
Can you hear me? I
um, "Yeah, can you hear me?
think your
You kind
your
of
end froze
disappeared."
again.
It did. You there? Hello, hello. It looks like the connection is getting better though. Can you hear me?
We'll see if we get this back up. But it looks like either I'm frozen or he's frozen. So we'll get back to where he was talking about the story he had heard. Um, but like I was saying, people don't grow up with responsibility, so um, it gives people that easy out. It gives if you're trying to build young men to be strong men, this society isn't allowing that. It doesn't encourage that. So you know I'm curious to hear what the story is. So let's see if we can get him back in here. um, so yeah, it might just be a connection thing, but it's a good conversation, and Let's see. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Damn, technical difficulties.
Yeah, it froze up, obviously, but
It's all right.
so
I'll let that out. It's still recording.
yeah.
But the story you were gonna say.
Yeah, so the story goes like this. So there's a guy in prison, right? And he's in there for life, and they're interviewing him. They're asking him questions, right? And they go, "Why did you end up like this? Why did you end up here?" And the guy starts thinking about his childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the mother is the only one that goes and visits him. You know, the dad is not in the picture or anything like that. So the son starts thinking about why he ended up in prison the way that he did, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then he tells, the people that are asking him the question, the interviewer goes, "Well, my mom was too soft with me. My mom was too lenient. If she would have been stricter with me, I wouldn't have ended up here."
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the mother and you're hearing this, and it could be a father, but in this story it was a mother.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear that as a mother, your whole intentions of raising them the way that you did was to protect them. You were lenient. You didn't want to. You wanted to give him his way, and you basically catered to him, right? You did everything for
Yeah.
him,
No,
right?
no discipline.
No discipline whatsoever. Imagine that. So you've got a grown adult son in prison, and he hits you with that. Is that if you
Mm-hmm.
would have been stricter, if you would have had some structure, if you would have had some discipline, I wouldn't have ended up in this position. That's a
Mm-hmm.
that's a mind bender right there for that parent to
Yeah.
hear those words at the end of it. And the moral of the story is that there has to be discipline, there has to be structure. I was
Mm-hmm.
reading this one book, and it told stories about people that ended up being great at a business or just being successful, period, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
there was this one part in the book where this mom was driving her son back home from school. And out of nowhere, she pulls over and tells the kid to get out and walk home. And the kid is confused. He's probably like 11 or something like that. And he's like, "What? Yeah, get out of the car and walk home." And the
Mm-hmm.
kid really didn't understand what was going on. But the mom was testing him, see if he was paying attention. She was teaching him something. He's like, "Pay attention
Mm-hmm.
to your surroundings. I need you to be independent. Now go home." So sure enough, like every parent, it's like kind of like when you let your kids, walk to school for the first time. You tell them, "Go ahead, go to school," but you're following behind them. You're making sure that they're okay, but you're giving them the illusion that they're on their own, and you want to see how they're going to
Yeah.
respond. And that's
Yeah.
what that mom was doing, and showing them how to be an independent young man at her early age. And I think that's what I don't think I see that that's what's happening in today's day and age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you need that discipline. You need those lessons in life, right? Especially, you know, simple, right? You're not gonna get everything your way. That's not how life works. Life works is you're gonna have some struggles, and you're gonna have to learn to navigate through them, right? So that you can come out of it better, and it's a learning experience. That's what life is. It's like kind of like when a kid's playing a sport or playing a video game, whatever, right? And they get real angry when they lose. They start crying because they lost, but not crying because it's not that like I gave it all I had. I'm crying because damn it, I just didn't win. It's just crying because I didn't win. Like I'm the one that should win all the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
and kids need to be taught that that's not how it goes, right? So that it's those lessons when they're young, so that when they get older, and like you're saying, right, they pay attention to their surroundings, and then they're independent. They realize sometimes things are going to be tough, sometimes things aren't going to go my way, but you know I have these many tools that I was given while I was being raised, that even though I'm going through this, I can do this, this, and this, and I'll I'll be better. I'll get over it. And but like we've been saying, today's day and age is I don't see that accountability, that personal responsibility out there, right? That's not encouraged. It's when you want a young man to, what's that saying right now that's offensive? Basically when you tell a guy, be a man, you know what I mean? Like, and it's so offensive nowadays. But what you're telling a guy when you're telling him be a man, it's like you're saying be responsible, be strong, be independent, be a good person. When you say be a man, it's like you not just any man. Obviously, you gotta be like a good man.
Yeah.
You got responsibilities, and you gotta you gotta pull your weight. Nobody's gonna come and pick you up. You gotta go. You got this. Life is a journey, and you know gets to a point where you gotta walk it and figure it out. Kind of on your own in a sense. Obviously, you have people around you can help guide you. You can learn from. You can you know go on the journey together. But it's not always gonna go your way. And I feel like that's a message that probably doesn't get shared a lot, or doesn't get told a lot to this next generation. I just don't see it. I feel like, again, what's encouraged is the easy route out,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
think that's why I have an issue with today's day and age, where we're at. That's why we're at where we're at. You said it last time, right? Tough times make weak men. I think we're on the weak men segment right now, and hopefully in these hard times we're gonna get some strong men. That's why you see people like Jordan Peterson. What's Top G's name? I forgot his name.
Oh,
Uh, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate.
there you
That's why you get those kind of guys get such a huge following, because they're kind of basically saying what we're saying now is be a man, be responsible. And so hopefully we're at the point where we're starting to make you know some good men to hopefully make great times. And again, even that's a cycle, right? Speaking of cycles, and then it gets to a point where times are going to be good, and again, people will get weak.
go.
But
Yeah. But
it's
it's a matter of identifying those patterns and those cycles, though. Is that
mhm,
and it has to be like almost like an animal instinct. Is there's times where you're trying to teach your kids something, and everything is fighting you. They're hearing different things about their friends and the way that their friends' parents do things, and the way that school does it, and what they see on TV, music, and all this other stuff. And that's, as a father or a mother, that's fighting against you because you're trying to instill those characters that we're talking about, and then
mhm,
you give into that, and you gotta fight that. That's where that instinct comes in. It's like, no, that's not right. I've got to. I felt like giving up sometimes in certain points, and I'm like, and I go, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna try anymore. 5 seconds go by, and it's like, I can't. I gotta, I gotta keep going.
yeah,
I gotta instill this in them and stuff like that.
yeah,
And that's what we have to identify. Some people are not
mhm,
happy as parents and stuff like that because deep down, they know that they have to teach their kids something that's missing, but they've given
mhm,
in. And
mhm.
that's the part where you have to fight. You can't give in to that feeling, you know? And
Yeah,
that's
it's
going to,
that. Uh-huh.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, because like, as kind of what you're saying, right? As a parent, you kind of, in a sense, you kind of get compassionate, right? You go, oh, I don't want to be too tough, or oh man, well, maybe next time, like like you kind of try to, like you said, right? Not feel like you're being so harsh, but at the same time, it's like you got to realize that difference, that it's not just about being harsh and not being compassionate or whatever you want to, however you look at it in your mind. It's no, you have to do it because they have to learn this. This
You're
is part of
building a
life.
character.
Yeah, you're building character. You're building, whether it's work ethic, right? Giving your kids, the ability to instill in themselves a good work ethic, right? Especially when it comes to schoolwork and all that, the quality of the work that they do. It just, things like that will carry on in someone's life. So as they get older and they get their job, even if they go work at McDonald's, if they got good work ethic, they're gonna run that McDonald's pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's just, it's an extreme example, but or whatever you want to look at it. But anywhere that your kid goes to work, they're gonna be, the what do you
They're
call it?
gonna rise to the top.
They're gonna rise to the top. Yeah, they're gonna be the top of the chain, and that's what you want, right? Because in that opportunity, then you get more and more. You learn more, and you just become more valuable. So then eventually, again, like we're saying, it's a journey, right? You're not gonna hit the first job you get isn't gonna be the one where boom, like you feel like you're a success. You gotta work your way through. Even people that get degrees, their first jobs, they're still not the best just because you got a degree. You still gotta put in that work. So if people have that and they know about that and having that sort of work ethic, then it's gonna benefit them.
Yeah, you still there? You there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I Your camera went off again, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
there's the skill and then there's the will. That's what the saying, goes.
Yeah.
But now, the way that we started this conversation, now that what we're talking about right now, to correlate, the beginning of it to what we're talking about right now, it seems like they're two completely different subjects. But if we think about it, it's the same thing because in order
Yeah.
for us to be followers, they have to break us down that way. They have to make us weak minded, not able to
Hmm.
handle um, deciphering whether this is a lie or this is the truth, and just be creating followers, because that's sheep. It's creating sheep.
Yeah.
So
Because someone's gonna go into the side that's, again, making it that, oh, this sounds good, or this route sounds easiest. They're promising me this free that free that. You don't got to work for it. So yeah, it's like, it's that mentality connects. Sorry to interrupt you there, but it's like that's kind of, I believe, the point you were trying to make too. It's got to be that wind. It's got to be the we've been having hella storms out here in California, so I'm gonna attribute it to the wind. It's probably messing up the the Wi-Fi connection. Uh, let's see. I mean, damn, it's always something. But yeah, I think the point Danny was trying to get to was that in today's society is people are gonna gravitate, if they're raised that way, to the easiest path, the what do you call it, the path of least resistance. So it's connected because as we're talking about being good people, raising good kids, and what we talked about earlier. um let's see. All right, cool, you're back. I don't I was saying because I'm trying to fill in the gap. I was saying I'm gonna attribute it to the storm that we
Right, to
have
the
going on right now.
storms,
It's
the
probably
wind over here. It's
yeah, the
like
wind's
40 to
probably
50 mile per hour winds or something like that.
yeah, it's that's probably what's causing the feed to cut out.
Yeah.
It's messing with the Wi-Fi. So, but do you remember what you were saying?
Yeah. So,
Go
just
ahead. Go
trying
ahead.
to correlate everything,
Hmm.
in other words, it's just creating sheep just so that we can follow these leaders, if you want to call them leaders that we have right now, and not question anything. And
Hmm.
the point that I was trying to make is that, we started off the conversation with one subject and it feels like we're ending it on a different subject. But it's really the same thing, for that reason. It's just if we're sheep, we're gonna, just believe everything that they're feeding us. So it's the challenge is out there is don't be sheep. Think for yourself. See the patterns. Um,
Mm.
snap your kids out of it. You know, don't fall into um, that whole narrative where you don't want their feelings to get hurt and stuff like that. I'm not saying go hurt their feelings. I'm just saying don't be so passive and lenient with them.
Hmm.
Have them. You have to teach them how to be independent, have a backbone.
Yeah. Or else they're I was saying too in the break, it's like, or else they're just gonna choose the what is it, the path of least resistance. It's
Yeah,
just again, whatever seems like the easiest route is what they're gonna take. And unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, that's either not dedicating to a job or a career because you try something, I don't like it, you move on. And unfortunately for some people, the easy route is drug use. The
mm.
easy route is being homeless, living in a tent, by your own free will because maybe the government sends you a check or you get an EBT card and you don't have to worry about working hard for what you want. It's all provided for you. So, I believe if you ask me, you know, a lot of the people that are homeless by choice, especially out here in California, a lot of people that are homeless is by choice. And then you have the homeless that are kind of because they fell into that whole drug thing, right? Drug use.
Yeah, I think it has to do a lot with, I mean, everything that you mentioned, but at the same time, kind of like tying it back to what we were talking about is the not being able to handle real world conflict issues, situations,
Hmm.
um, and I believe that's on us, the parents, because we have to start teaching them young.
Hmm.
It's it doesn't start when they're about to be an adult. Like when they're 16. Oh shoot, you got 2 more years before you're an adult. Let me teach you how to be an adult.
Yeah.
That doesn't start at that moment. It starts earlier in life.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
people do avoid having certain types of conversations with their kids, and I would say fight that um, narrative that they're trying to feed us and have those conversations with them, and stop trying to shelter them, period, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I mean, I think, like you said, it seems like we started on one and ended on another one, but it is, there is a correlation there, like you're saying, and I think these conversations are just as important, right, as everything else we've been talking about. Um, but if how could you put it? Because we were talking about how people leave those countries to come here, and then if they're encouraged to vote for you know, the same type of
BS
government
that they have
they're
over there.
they're avoiding, yeah, it's like if people are raised to not have that sort of mentality to kind of like we were saying, this doesn't make sense, or they just want the easy route, then yeah, that's why what the Mexican president says, I think, bothers me a lot, because it's like there's people that kind of just, and we've talked about this before, just go off of what people with influence say. And and well, he's free to, even, even he's free to say what he wants to say. That's fine. But, you know, I see something like that and it just goes, okay, well, I got to make sure that I continue doing what I'm doing, because I know there's other people out there that have a louder microphone, if you will, and more people are probably going to hear that before they hear any of this conversation. But
Hmm.
that's not going to deter me. You know what I mean? It just lets me know, okay, well, shit, I got to keep going. I got to keep
Hmm.
going. And, we got to keep doing what we're doing, and talking about these important issues. And hopefully the people that, tune in constantly, hopefully they keep sharing it, right? Or hell, if they don't want to listen to us and then they got their own point of views, I encourage everyone to do your thing too, you know, um, because it's needed, right? You need more voices right now. We might not have the loudest microphone. The loudest microphones might not be on our side, but if we get enough of us speaking about these things, then we won't even need a microphone because we'll be heard either way.
Yeah,
So that's kind of, how I kind of say, okay, that's how I'm going to combat what he said.
yeah, yeah. And what I would tell people too is, look, I don't care what any of these people with these platforms that are up there, high up there, with a lot of influence, like a
Mm-hmm.
president. That's not the majority. We're the majority. I
Mm-hmm.
feel it in my bones, and it's an
Yeah.
illusion that they are the majority.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe, and I'm going to stick to it. And you know, like you said, continue to voice this opinion, our opinion, continue to learn, decipher, what the majority is trying to tell us,
Mm-hmm.
and see what's truth and what's not truth. To what the president said, the Mexican president said, hey, you know what I would say to that is that, yeah, Lindsey Graham is corrupt, but you're corrupt too. So tomala right there. So it's,
Yeah.
there's truth and there's lies mixed in all the time. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
It's like, you got to clarify what the Mexican president said, because our president can't even talk, right?
Man, it's tough. If they made a movie about this, I'd be like, this is not even credible. This is something that would not happen in real life, but it's happening in real life, man. It's insane.
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Well, we got, the way I look at it, right? Hopefully, at the latest, we got till 2024. Hopefully, people wise up, or not, no, not wise up, but get better informed. Um, have done their own research, and hopefully not fall for these narratives that basically, you know, obviously there's sketchy stuff going on with the voting and the ballots and all that, but the media did do its part with their narrative to, I'm sure, convince a lot of people to vote for this guy. They had you believing that life would be easier, but obviously, if you live these past, how long has it been? It feels like an eternity. 2 years. How long has it been in office? 2 years, right? If you live these past 2 years with Biden in office, then life is not easier. You know, everything financially is way harder. Gas is expensive, food is expensive, mortgage rates are high, banks are closing. We need to talk about that. Banks are shutting down. Uh, like, the quality of life hasn't improved at all. It's gotten worse. And again, as you said on the last episode, was if your eyes aren't opening up by now, at least a little, I don't, I don't know what to say. I don't know. There's not a lot of hope, maybe, but hopefully, hopefully it's going slower than we'd like. But if your eyes aren't opening now to how you were either deceived or manipulated into voting for this administration, and hopefully now you see the results of that in your day-to-day life. Hopefully you're better informed next time. And I'm not necessarily saying just, vote for, if it's Trump, vote for Trump, or DeSantis, whoever it is, right? I'm just saying that don't just fall for what they're feeding you, in the news, what these celebrities, what they're citing on. It's just, it's not worth it, because at the end of the day, those news networks, those anchors, those celebrities probably make millions of dollars that, obviously things are probably more expensive for them too, but does it hurt them as much? Probably not. But is it hurting you? It probably is. So, that's kind of just what I would say on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Is they're not waking up because that blue pill was NyQuil, and they're passed out. So it's got to wear off. So you got to take the red pill, the DayQuil. Wake up, keep you awake.
Daytime, the DayQuil.
Yeah. So take the red
for real. All right then. Well, that was a good conversation. I like where it went and all that. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on number 12.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
For the political prisoners stuck up in themselves. We got Brandon in the White House and his brain ain't got no cells. Tucker just blew up the J6 propaganda that they sent. This administration, no improvements, it ain't going well. Latino free minds, we got a story to tell. Stop the manipulation, everybody, let's give them hell. Cause they ain't got no logic, their main tactic is to yell. And liberty ain't partisan, so let's ring that bell. Now, thank you, Donnie T. And no, not Trump, my boy Don on the beat. Time to fight for what's right, so get up on your feet. This is Star Spangled Banger, you ain't ready for this heat. What we want? Justice, justice, justice.